Space, final frontier. These are the voyages of Starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission, to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilization, to boldly go where no man has gone before.
Greetings, salutations, and welcome to ReTrek. I'm Captain Jim, and with me, of course, is Admiral Elliot.
Hi there.
And we're back to talk about, we're looking at another Barclay episode. We're back on track now after we've had a few jumps around in the timeline. But,
we got sidetracked by all the Picard stuff, didn't we? We got overexcited.
We did.
We got in trouble with CBS over it.
We did. We had to take down our video clips of Picard, which
so
is a bit weird.
Anyone who watched us live last week, you've seen it all. Anyone who's watched the YouTube afterwards, apologies that it looks strange at about 10.5 minutes, because we had to literally remove a minute of the... It was either remove a minute or remove the entire
it was a
video.
Strange one, definitely.
Yeah. And anyone who listening to the podcast has gone out normal.
Yeah, podcast is normal, and the weird thing is that we were showing a trailer which is advertising the program, so surely we were just giving them free advertising. But anyway, they weren't happy, so
it's because their channel's all monetarised and they have adverts, and us showing it, they look at it potentially dates away someone watching it on theirs.
So they want to put adverts on the adverts. It's not good enough just to put the adverts up. But anyway. So this week we're back to the usual topics. We're looking at Inside Man from Voyager, which is another Barclay show. And then we're looking at Meridian.
This will be our last Barclay episode for a while, won't it?
It should be, yeah.
Because there's only Endgame, and we're going to do Endgame just before Prodigy starts, so it's sort of like this is the last time we saw Janeway properly. I know she was in Nemesis, but...
Don't we have one more? Haven't we got Author, which I think is...
Is he in Author?
I think he is, yeah. Anyway,
sure
we'll see how we get on with that.
We can look at Author, because it sort of fits into Lifeline, doesn't it?
Yeah, and Holodeck, and it'll be fine. And then we're looking at Meridian from Deep Space Nine, which we do have our reasons, and it's an important reason, but we know it's not a great episode, but hopefully we can have a little bit of fun with it. Talking about it, because we had to watch it this week, and Anyway, let's start with Inside Man. Anyway, we'll start with the better of the two episodes. It's carrying on, isn't it, from like Barclay setting up the Pathfinder and everything, and I like that
it's a nice little story arc. Is this?
It is
that they keep going back to it, and it's got continuity, and
it's almost like if they were doing this now, you'd be like, this is a backdoor pilot for the Barclay show. Like, you'd be expecting a spin-off to come, the Barclay and Troy show.
I was off to say the Barclay and Troy, because Troy's here again. Like, Riker must be getting suspicious by now.
Yeah, she's always going off on holiday and then spending a few days or a few weeks.
Yeah, she goes off on holiday a few days before Riker can get there. And who shows up every time?
Yeah, it's funny that, but yeah, I mean, maybe Riker's just not worried about Barclay, but you never know. I mean, this is the bloke who used to make like dirty hologram programs of her. Yeah, and she at least 3 times in the space of about a year or so. Anyway, but there's nothing untoward going on at all, so we'll let Barclay go.
Nothing seen on screen, so in canon, nothing's going on.
Nothing that we see, anyway. I bet like Dwight Schultz has probably written some like spin-off fiction where Barclay's getting his end away. And they're carrying on this thing of the transmissions. Like, we're finding out now they're getting these transmissions every month, and it's, in a way, it's quite a weird setup because everybody's really pissed off. Like, we've missed a month, we haven't had the contact, and they're all describing it like, you know, communications from home, and it sounds like they're all getting letters and stuff, whereas I imagine you'd be getting videos and holos and, oh, well, we know a hologram takes too much memory, but videos and stuff, you'd think.
Yeah, I can't see why they wouldn't be getting some form of video contact.
You'd have thought so, yeah. And it ends up with this hologram of Barclay coming through, and straight away Barclay's much cooler. And it took me about half the episode to put my finger on it. So I'm like, it reminds me of somebody, and it's Ace Rimmer from Red Dwarf. He's doing that. He's like sort of making his voice.
Oh, of course.
And
yeah.
You know, it's like, hey, you know, we're going to do all this, and
smoke me a kipper.
Yeah, that's it. It's Ace Barclay. He's trying to do this like much cooler version of who he was before, and he's got this plan that we're going to send Voyager home. Now, every time in Voyager they say, oh, we've got a thing that's going to send us home, obviously the viewers are going, no, you haven't. But
yeah, here we go again.
Even more so, season 7 were like, nope, you're not getting home until the finale. There's no way. Absolutely no chance at all.
Yeah,
but,
we know that you're going to get home this season, but...
yeah, it's not going to happen until later on, and it's not going to be in a Barclay episode. Been funny if it had been, actually. Just randomly,
yeah.
Barclay gets him home, and there's none of this Borg and time travel and
yeah, well,
that.
Like, there's one of the big things that they all go on about Voyager is it gets home, and that's it. You don't see them actually get back to Earth or anything.
Yeah, it's a shame.
And, like, there's almost an argument, isn't there for why couldn't Barclay have actually done something in the penultimate episode, and then we have an episode a bit in the vein of, like, after Best of Both Worlds, what's it called with Picard? With family, where we have them all going back to Earth and acclimatising and...
Yeah, I mean, this is a thing, again, that you can sort of get away with in modern TV now, whereas you couldn't back then. Like, your season finale and your series finale had to be a big sort of wham-bam spectacular. And now you can do it a bit lower key, like that recent mini-series of The Stand. It was all wrapped up by the penultimate episode, and then I think they even called it the Coda episode was the final episode. And, you know, not to give away spoilers to anyone who's a big fan of Arrow, but the last couple of episodes of Arrow are not what you'd expect. And
well, the last two episodes of Arrow are backdoor pilots that aren't getting made.
Yeah, well, exactly. But, you know, you'd expect all the monumentous stuff to be in the finale, but you can do stuff like this now and have a bit of time to see what's going on with your characters. I mean, having said that, Babylon 5 kind of did that. Like, the last episode is pretty much an epilogue, and it's just...
Well, Babylon 5's a funny case, isn't it? Because Babylon 5 was originally meant to run for 5 seasons. They got told at the start of the 4th season, this is your last season. So season 4 is amazing. There's so much goes on. Because they crammed season 4 and season 5 into it. And because it had been so amazing, they renewed it to season 5. And they had no story for it. So you just get these... And a lot of the episodes were almost epilogues to closing up little loopholes and...
Yeah, but with that one, the thing is that the actual finale episode of Babylon 5 was the season 4 finale, but then when they got renewed, they held it back. And so it shows that now happened in season 5, really, if you can have season 4 finale as your series finale. And it still makes sense.
Season 5 of Babylon, like I love Babylon 5, but season 5 is very unremarkable.
Yeah, it is. I remember there being sort of right towards the back end, there's some decent stuff, but the first are nothing to... Anyway, but that's Babylon 5. But yeah, so Voyager, they could have got home earlier and we could have done something with it, but we know going into this episode, this is not how you're going to get home. But
no,
we have a bit of fun finding out how they don't get home on this one. So Ace Barclay takes the Doctor's mobile emitter, and straight away you're like, right, this is dodgy. There's got to be something here that's not above board. There's all this quite good stuff where he's like buttering him up and everything. Like he's calling Voyager the miracle ship and all this business. And, you know, you're famous back home. And I imagine that's true. That, like, there would be stories about Voyager once they started hearing about it. And
yeah, well, like, originally there'd have just been another Federation ship that was lost, and you'd have had the military-style letters going out to the families.
Yeah.
But nothing, it wouldn't have been, might have been a little news segment on, like, the back end of the 6 o'clock news, or so ships missing, all members presumed dead. But then when it's discovered what's happening with it, that'd probably be quite big news.
Yeah, I reckon they'll have done stuff in schools, like they'll have been like, let's all write a letter to the crew of the Voyager. And, you know, it's like an exercise to do. Like, what would you tell the crew of the Voyager? I could see that happening. Then there's a bit where they sort of acknowledge some of the daft stuff, like where Tom sort of runs through all the things that could have got him home but didn't get him home. What about that time when we had the slipstream, and what about the time when we thought we could do this? And that's quite good. I like that you're poking a little bit of fun at it now, because there has been
the subspace catapult.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's good fun. There's some good stuff with Seven as well, that she's talking about, like, I'm worried that I won't be accepted back on Earth because I used to be a Borg and all this. And Barclay's like, no, it's the opposite. You're a celebrity. You know, everybody wants to meet you.
Like, that actually makes a lot of sense, because, like, they've had the things with War 359. So they know that Picard got assimilated. So there's got to be, we imagine that parts of our family have been assimilated and gone off. Like, is this after First Contact?
Yeah, it will.
I think it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they've had First Contact as well. So they know people get assimilated. And it's got to be hope for anyone who's lost someone to a Borg attack. Yeah. 7 of 9 is a beacon of hope that they could come home.
I'd not thought of it that way. Yeah, absolutely. And it quite nicely ties in with what we do later on with Picard as well, because it starts to explore this idea of ex-Borgs and how they'll fit in. Yeah. And obviously we've not got the full story of it yet in Picard, but we do find that ultimately Seven doesn't stay with Starfleet, and she ends up with the Fenris Rangers and all this. So it's almost like we're laying seeds for that kind of thing here. I mean, obviously it wasn't deliberately, so they didn't know where it was going to go, but I quite like, you can see a progression from where she is in this episode to where she is when we see her in Picard. Then, and I think maybe... does the episode maybe play its hand a little bit too early here? Because we cut back to Earth and we see that real Barclay thinks he's lost the hologram. So
yeah, and he's sort of like, he started with the Borg have got it, the Romulans. Like, he's right, but he's wrong.
Yeah,
and he goes, a ship flew within 20 meters of the Midas array. just before the transmission didn't get through.
Yeah, it's quite funny though, because you've got them kids coming round to look round the thing, and he runs in, he's like, "The Borg, it's the Borg,
it's the Borg, it's the Borg."
Yeah. And the Admiral's like, "Shut up, Reg, we got kids here." But this Admiral, right? He must really like Barclay, because this is the guy who was setting him up with one of his family last episode, and now he's like, "My cousin's got."
He's not an Admiral, is he?
Oh, sorry, it's his boss.
Not his boss.
Yeah, and
well,
like,
I think the thing is that, and I think it's a bit like Georgie. Like, Reggie's definitely somewhere on the spectrum.
Yeah,
but once you get to know him, you realise that he's actually brilliant. He's just socially awkward.
Yeah, no, exactly. But
and once you break down them barriers, them barriers of him being socially awkward, he's actually pretty normal. Just a bit eccentric at times.
But this guy's like, I'm going to try and set you up with someone, and now I'm offering you my cousin's beach house. You can go stay there. And we find out in this episode that Barclay's been seeing someone else, so it obviously hasn't worked out with his boss's sister or whoever it was. But
the thing I hope with this is that it was set up with his boss's sister, and he talked about it, didn't he? And he said that they got on really well and all this. And I just hope that he hasn't like blown her out because this Dobbo girl's come along who's pretty attractive and all that. And I assume she's been putting out quite a lot for him. and I hope he just hasn't blown out this really nice girl just for some quick sex.
Well, it can't have ended that badly because his boss is still like offering him his cousin's beat. But he's obviously not carrying a lot of anger or resentment for it. But yeah, that's a very good point. And then obviously we find out it's the Ferengi who've commandeered the signal. And
I think we find this out through like Troy questioning, don't we?
Yeah.
I'm empathic and can tell when you're lying.
Yeah, well, that's when she interrogates the Dabo girl. But we do get a scene of the Ferengi where it just shows the Ferengi intercepting it. And they're kind of more leaning towards the TNG style Ferengi, I think.
Yeah, I thought this, that it was almost... I was thinking... When I was watching this, I'm thinking, was this made before DS9?
Yeah.
Or have they just totally ignored everything they developed in DS9?
Yeah, they're very much like we got them sort of in early TNG, like in Menage a Troy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, they have some funny stuff where they're like, "Oh, we want 7 of 9 for Umox, and also to get the Borg technology." Mainly, look at her hands. I bet she gives good Umox. She's just horrible. But that's the Ferengi for you. Then this is where we meet Troy, and she's on a beach and seemingly sunbathing. But if you look at the lighting and everything in this scene, it looks freezing. This looks like it's been filmed in winter, that they've had to all pretend that it's actually real.
It's the middle of... Yeah.
If you look at it, that sky does not look very warm. That maybe it's because, we haven't we've not had the HD remasters of Voyager yet, so maybe it's a colour correction issue or something like that. But I really get the feeling that they were absolutely freezing when they were recording this. And it's cool, though, that we get, like, lots of different aliens. Like, we've said lots of times, like, we don't see much of Earth, but to see Earth and see the different aliens and everything, I think that's all really cool. And I like that Troy, straight away, when she sees it's Barclay, covers up. Like, I mean... Yeah. Obviously, she's wearing a swimsuit.
She covers up... and she says it again, do you know how inappropriate it is to follow your therapist on holiday?
Yeah, exactly.
But he keeps doing it.
He does. And it's probably because she always drops whatever she's doing and goes off to help him on his latest adventure. So he's had a really good success rate with it so far.
Yeah, so why wouldn't he keep interrupting her on her holidays?
It always works. We find out that we've missed Geordie's birthday party, and Barclay's done a duet with Data and all this stuff. So he's obviously still keeping in touch with the TNG crew, which is nice. But obviously, we're only going to get Councillor Troy in this episode. We're not. We mentioned Riker a couple of times, but we're not going to see him.
Like, I'm trying to fit in the time here. Is this before Insurrection?
I think it's maybe after Insurrection, but before Nemesis at this point.
Right. It's got to be before Nemesis, because Janeway's in Nemesis.
Yeah, exactly. So, but if Troy's together with Riker, it'd be after Insurrection.
Yeah, it would.
So that's I assume that's where it fits in the timeline. And I like that Troy straight away is really skeptical of it all. Like, oh, come on, Reg. You know, you're always saying it's this, that, or the other.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair to him, in the episodes that we've seen, he's always been right. But we don't know that he's not doing this every couple of weeks with Troy.
Well, yeah, it's so... And, like, we saw that episode, the changing... Genetics... Genesis,
yeah.
When they're in Genesis, and Dr. Crusher says about how he's always coming into sick bay.
Exactly. So
there's something wrong with him.
I'm wondering if every counselling session he has with Troy, and we just don't see it, but he's coming out with all sorts of stuff like, the Iconians, we can use a gateway. I mean, Tom makes that joke later on, doesn't he? But you know, he could be like, we can get Voyager through an Iconian gateway, and all we need to do is this. And Troy's just like, yeah, Reg. But the only time we see it's when he's right, because it makes a good episode. But yeah, I imagine she's pretty fed up of all of this. And she straight away works out, like, from what he's saying, oh, you've got this ex-girlfriend who asked you loads of questions about the work you were doing.
And she wasn't interested in anything else. What did she do? She's a Dobbo girl.
Yeah. So Troy pretty quickly works out what's going on. And there's the bit later on in there where Barclay goes and he tells his boss about it. You're like, there is no way he would not get fired. Like, after what he tried last time, and we know he pulled it off, but he went and he hid in the thing, and now he's going to him and saying, that I accidentally told this Dabo girl all about all his plans, and now she's commandeered the... I think he'd be in a little bit of trouble. Maybe he's got a boss like our Prime Minister who just won't sack you no matter what you do, you know. It's
until you resign, and then he'd sack you.
Yeah, and then he sacks you. Yeah, so I've had Barclay's apology, and it's all fine, and we'll see how it goes. Then, yeah, like you said, there's the bit where Troy threatens her, like, I've got empathic powers, and I can get you locked up on psychiatric grounds. Like, I'm pretty sure this must be violating, like, the councillor's code of ethics or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good to see.
I think she's playing with that. She's hoping this Dabo girl won't realise what dodgy ground she's on with the threat.
Yeah, it's a bluff, maybe. Yeah, I mean, it is good, though, to see Troy kicking a bit of ass and everything. Like we've said, I don't know how many times, like, she was so much of a better written character after TNG finished. Like,
well, it actually started after Chain of Command with Jellicoe when he put her in a uniform.
Actually. Yeah, you're right.
As soon as she got in a uniform, she improved.
You're right.
It's like, why did you put her in the stupid costumes for 5-6 years?
Yeah, well, we know why, but...
we know why, yeah.
The character did get a lot better after that. So then they find the Ferengi ship, they work out that they're trying to steal the nanoprobes and everything. Meanwhile, you've got this weird subplot of the Doctor saying, let's go play golf, Barclay. And you get this scene of him on the holodeck, and the Doctor's kitted out in all his golf gear and everything.
Yeah.
And they end up having a bit of an argument, and Barclay does make a decent point. Like, the Doctor says, like, "Oh, I'm not happy that you're using my emitter to play board games." And he says, "Well, you know, should I be using it to play golf either?" Which is a fair point. But then he don't need it to play golf because it's on the holodeck, so...
yeah, I think it's also that he has to borrow the Doctor's mobile emitter.
That's true.
And he hasn't returned it, and the Doctor's feeling like, I don't mind you using it at times when you're doing something, but if you're just sitting around in the mess hall, why can't I go socialise with the crew?
Well, that's it. Exactly. Like he's doing this thing where he's doing impressions of Janeway and he's having the crew laughing and everything, everyone's loving it. Which, yeah, to be fair, I can see that. Someone comes in, does impressions of your boss, and yeah, I could definitely see people finding that amusing anyway. And they end up doing diagnostics on him and everything, and apparently it all shows he's okay, but he's clearly not, because he ends up taking out 7 of 9 and sending Voyager towards this anomaly.
Well, what they're looking for is if his programs start to degrade.
Right.
And his program isn't starting to degrade, it's just being rewritten to do different things than it's meant to.
Yeah,
it's
right.
actually working exactly how it's been sent through to work.
You're right, yeah, that does make sense. Yeah, they wouldn't detect anything wrong with it, but...
Yeah, they're looking for something actually... They're looking for actual bugs in the programme, and there isn't any bugs. It's doing what it's been told to do.
Yeah, it's that its mission's changed now.
Yeah.
And then the Ferengi, I like how one of them, and it's a cheap joke, but fair enough, but he's on about getting lobe enlargements once he gets all
we're talking what they have to do with all the money. Yeah, I'll have lobe enlargements. But they're all going, yeah.
I mean, it is good. Yeah, it's funny stuff. We've got a lot of smutty Ferengi this week, actually. Once we get onto Meridian, we've got even more smutty. I like the bit where you've got Barclay pretending to be the hologram, so it's our Barclay pretending to be cooler than he is. And
yeah, well, before that, we have like the message, don't we, from Voyager that they send through to Starfleet, letting them know that they're ready to come through. But it's being intercepted again, and like it starts with Janeway, sort of speech. And it's fast forward this, just get to the good stuff.
Yeah,
and it's a hologram, and it's in line with the 74th rule of acquisition: information is profit.
Yes. Yeah, that's another one. Get that down in book. Information is profit. They brought out a book, didn't they, with all the ones that had been spoken on screen?
Yeah.
We got all of them officially. Then, Ace Barclay tries to escape with 7, but it's all a bit anticlimactic, really. Like, they just go, beam them off, and then you don't even see them or anything. It all happens off screen, and presumably they deactivate the hologram, and
they don't go through this. This fold. Jade. Oh, it's a stupid made-up name.
Yeah, it was.
Gigantic fold or something like that. Where you fire a beam into a red sun.
Yeah,
and it'll fold space, and
it does look like it were going to work because
it opens the doorway, but it kills them all because there's massive radiation.
Yeah,
and there's no shielding that can protect them.
Yeah, true, but and weirdly, Voyager and the crew of Voyager don't really find out what's actually been going on in this one. Presumably, Barclay will tell them in the next communication next month. But for now, they're like, well, we don't know why he went crazy and tried to kidnap 7.
Yeah.
Presumably they will get brought up to date. And there's quite a funny scene where Tom, like I say, is going on this, we've met an Iconian and he's going to take us back through this. And there's this sort of thing of, Harry's really gullible, which I think's mentioned very briefly earlier on in the episode. But when they did that,
to be fair, this is a callback to early episodes because Harry was always, how are we going to get home? How are we going to get home? And looking for this next way home. And
yeah, true. Yeah, he was always the one who was sort of most excitable about. I mean, they were obviously all excited about it, but Harry was the one. Yeah. And then there's Barclay's made the program a bit more security conscious, which we know because it nearly goes for Troy. And then
now this reminded me of RoboCop.
Yes.
With
10 seconds.
Sort of police state the nature.
Yeah. And then Riker's setting Barclay up now as well, so he's
maybe Riker's a bit worried that Barclay's sort of moving in on it. No, it's not his wife yet, is it? It's just his girlfriend. But that Barclay's moving in a bit here, and maybe keeps turning up when she's on holiday. Hold on, I need to get someone to distract him here.
Yeah, either that, or maybe it's not a date. Maybe it's someone, and she's going to drag Barclay off and break his knees or something, so that he ain't up to this anymore. It's Riker's. So I mean, that's a good, fun episode. And like I say, it's nice.
It is a fun episode.
Carried on this arc. And it's always...
What are we, about 4 episodes into this arc now?
Yeah. It's Barclay's become...
So it has been quite good that it's been... It'd been so easy for it to just be a throwaway episode with a guest star, wasn't it, the first one?
Definitely, but he's become one of the more frequent recurring Voyager characters now as Barclay, and I think he works really well. Right, shall we move on then to Meridian?
Just give me 30 seconds, James.
Okay. Right, Elliot's disappearing off camera. Anyone who's watching, any guesses on what he's doing? I think he's going to get a lighter.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
Back.
So now we're going to move on to Meridian, which, as I said at the start of the episode, we know that...
I think everyone should watch this.
Well, everyone should, but we know this is not a great episode of Deep Space Nine by any stretch of the imagination, but very early on...
It was it last year or the year before it was voted in the 10 worst episodes of Star Trek?
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I don't know if it deserves to be out of all of Star Trek. I don't know if it deserves to be in the 10 worst, but then it probably does. It's not very good. Anyway, we'll get into why it's not very good, and we'll explain why we're actually focusing on this, because we're doing, obviously, the series on the Dominion War. And at first glance, this isn't a very Dominion War-heavy episode. However, it's one of the most important episodes for the Dominion War. And we're going to cover that in a minute. So it starts off...
Go on, carry on.
We start off with the B plot in this episode. So it's Odo chatting with Kira, and there's a little bit of character work there because they're talking about eating and does Odo ever eat, and he tells a story about like he tried drinking something when he was younger. So they are subtly sort of feeding into this arc that we're doing with Odo at the moment, where he's met his people, he's a bit more comfortable with who he is, and he's starting to sort of experiment with what it is to be a shapeshifter, and so we're nudging that along. But the main thing is to set up this pervert character played by Jeffrey Combs, and
this, which is actually Jeffrey Combs' first appearance in Star Trek.
Yes. It's a lucky thing he stuck around, really, after playing this one. Maybe the other roles that he got were a bit of an apology for... I mean, he's great in the episode. He makes this guy look like a horrible, sleazy bloke, which is what
the guy is a horrible, sleazy bloke.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, subtle character building with Odo, that we get the bit where Kira pretends that Odo's her, as she describes it, her lover, and she holds his hand, and then after Kira leaves, we get this long shot of Odo just looking at his hand that Kira's been holding, and this has all been done fairly subtly up until this point, that we've seen that Odo and Kira are friends, but we've not had Odo confess his love for her or anything. I mean, we're not a long way away from that. But I think, even watching it at the time, I think even before this episode, you knew that Odo had feelings for Kira.
Yeah, it goes beyond just being friends with him, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think a lot of that's down to René Auberjonois' performance, that he's able to get that across, even though it's not been made explicit. But I think this is one of the first moments where it is made really explicit. Then we get the captain's log, or the commander's log, rather, which is our whole reason for focusing on this episode. So I've written it down word for word. And what Sisko says is, despite the continued threat posed by the Dominion, I've convinced Starfleet that we must continue our exploration of the Gamma Quadrant. So there is the entire cause of the Dominion War.
Yeah. Like we're not that far past where the Dominion have clearly said you are not welcome in our territory. They've shown that even though the Defiant is... I know the Defiant's only classed as an escort ship, but let's not mess about here. The Defiant is a warship, and it's arguably Starfleet's strongest warship, and the Dominion have shown that they can kick the snot out of it. That it is not a threat. It's got its cloak. That didn't stop them. They saw through the cloak.
Yeah.
They don't. Well, the Dominion don't. I think the Dominion don't have cloaking technology, and I think the reason the Dominion don't have cloaking technology is that they've already got the technology. Their technology is that advanced to see through cloaks. So why waste the effort having a cloak?
Yeah, and they don't need it either, because they control their sector of the galaxy completely. Presumably, the only reason you'd really need a cloak would be to spy on people, and they haven't got anybody they need to spy on.
Yeah.
And when they do want to spy, they've got changelings who are quite efficient at doing that.
Just infiltrate, yeah.
But this is the thing, like, if we look at the sequence of events, so Starfleet, Bajor, whatever, discovers the wormhole. They start exploring. They meet various different people, and things seem to be going okay, and they have some adventures. They start building the new Bajor colony. They're always talking about trade and things like that, so presumably they're stripping resources off planets, or if not the Federation, then the Ferengi certainly are. And the Federation's doesn't seem to be policing who goes through the wormhole. You know, we've seen all sorts.
It seems it's not a. It's in Bajoran space, isn't it?
Not.
Like, let's not forget, DS9 isn't a Federation space station. Not. It's a Bajoran space station administered by the Federation.
Yeah. So they've let everybody go through the wormhole. Then, after a couple of years, give or take, the Dominion make first contact with the Federation, and they say in no uncertain terms, we don't want you coming through the thing.
Into our territory.
Yes, they kidnap Sisko and Quark. They escape, but the Dominion have let them escape. So I suppose technically you could argue the Dominion kidnapping Sisko and Quark could be the first. Have they made the first hostile move? But the Dominion say, well, we consider you building building things in our space to be hostile.
I think going in and colonizing planets is actually seizing territory, isn't it?
Well, that's it. Yeah, and then the Dominion.
It'd be a bit like. How would we feel if the French came over and decided that they were off to turn Lancashire into Little France? I know that we don't particularly like the Lancastrians, but it's still part of England, and we'd be pretty peeved at it.
Yeah, this is true. And regardless of it all, the first official meeting they have with the Dominion is saying, we don't want you coming in our part of the galaxy.
Yeah, this is our territory.
So in response to that, the first thing they do is go and get a warship, sneak into the Gamma Quadrant under cloak, and then when the Jem'Hadar discover them...
To try find the home planet. When the Jem'Hadar discover them, they uncloak and blow one of the ships up. That's the first thing they do. So all of this does look really aggressive. And then Cisco again, after this... Starfleet were presumably trying to decide what to do. They were telling nobody to go to the Gamma Quadrant, but Cisco took it upon himself to go and talk to them and say, no, we should be able to go back over there. Yeah, so, like they don't do this in Romulan space. They don't go into the Romulan Star Empire exploring around because they know that it'll cause a war. They don't go into Klingon space and start exploring a war around because... Even though they're sort of like on friendly-ish terms with the Klingons now, they know it'd start a war. They've just got out of a Cardassian war, so they don't go into Cardassian space. So why start it in the Gamma Quadrant?
Yeah, it just doesn't... It's bad plotting, like, it's never made sense, haven't this? And I think the vast majority of the Dominion War story arc is really well written. And it's clear that the Dominion are the bad guys and the Federation are the good guys. But there is no denying that the Federation is the one at fault in these early days.
You could argue the case, actually, and I think quite easily, that actually, I know that we met on the side of the Federation because it's Star Trek and they're the heroes of Star Trek. But this Dominion War... Starfleet are actually the baddies. They're the ones invading somebody else's territory.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, it does flip the other way later on. But yeah, at this point in it, pretty much all of the aggressive actions have been taken by the Federation. And you could argue that everything the Dominion has just been a response to that. Like, it might be quite an extreme response, blowing up all the ships and the new Bajor colony and blah blah blah. But
is it an extreme response to go and attack a colony that's basically invaded your territory? They've seized territory. They've gone in and seized territory. Yeah. Like, look at the Falklands. Look at the Falklands when the Argies went in and seized the Falklands. We went in and we killed the Argies for it to take the Falklands back. And this is exactly the same what the Dominion's done to the Bajorans.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because you want to be on the Federation side, but when you look at the events...
It's Star Trek, we're meant to be on the Federation side, but... till this point, the Federation are in the wrong. The Federation are the aggressors. There's no evidence, apart from the one time the Dominion have come through to say, and gone to the station and said, do not come into our space. There is absolutely no evidence the Dominion have come into Federation territory or space.
Yeah, it is funny.
There's nothing. It's all aggression from the Federation.
It is, which is a shame, but there we go. So that's the reason we've covered this episode, and we think that's why this episode is important. However, that means we're going to have to discuss the main plot line of this episode, which is they find a mysteriously appearing and disappearing planet. And they go down to the planet, and you can tell within a couple of seconds, this is going to be one of them episodes where one of the crew members falls in love. And we know this because there's a guy who starts hitting on Dax straight away, which I can totally understand if someone met Dax that they might start hitting on her. But it doesn't mean it's entertaining for us to watch. And what they try and do, and part of it is the problem of these types of shows, because at the time, DS9 is starting to get more serialised, but it's not the whole way there yet. So we're still doing one-off episodes, and if you want to do a one-off romance episode, it's quite tricky because you've got to introduce a new character, convince us that...
Well, you've only actually got 42 minutes of screen time, and that includes the long titles at the beginning and the end.
Yeah, exactly.
So you've probably got about 39 minutes in total to do this story.
And then this episode, we've got quite a hefty B-plot as well. So you've got to introduce a new character, convince us that a character we know is going to fall in love with them, and then wrap up that story as well, because at the time we were introducing brand new cast members. There's no way a one-off love interest is going to stick around at this time in this type of show. DS9 will subvert that later on with Cassidy Yates, but we know this guy's a one-off, so you've got to tell the whole, in inverted commas, epic love story in, like you say, about 20 minutes or something once you strip out the credits and the B-plot and everything else.
Yeah, it's all about spots.
Yeah, well, it is. It's all about spots. And, that's a thing that runs for ages, doesn't it? Like, how far down do your spots go?
Well, it's just a tease, isn't it, when she tells us to go all the way down, and the look on her face when she says it, and then we never get to see it. Like,
Yeah, I mean, you do see, though, in one episode, I'm pretty sure you see a Trill's feet, and the spots do go down to the feet, so she might have been meaning to make it sound suggestive, but she was actually literally just telling the truth that they go right down to the feet. And then they try and do things where, and you've got to do this when you've only got that amount of time for a love story, so they try and have a few shortcuts to it. So what they try and do is go, oh, look, they've got this connection because this guy notices things about her that no one else does. So they have this scene where he says, like, oh, do you always bite your lip when you're concentrating? And she goes, oh, I guess I do. And like, no, Dax has never done that in any other episode. Like, if you can let someone notice, like, a character trait, make it something that is actually a character trait that character's got. Like, Dax always had this really distinctive walk where she put her hands and clasped her hands behind her back when she walked.
Yeah.
Like, make it that he notices that. But no, we'll make up a new character trait that's never been mentioned before, never will be mentioned again, just to make it look like these characters are connected to each other a bit. It's just rubbish. And the thing with the planet's not that interesting either. It's, oh, well, we go to another dimension, but we don't really know why.
Yeah, and then we come back every 60 years for a week or so.
Yeah, so we have his first meal and his last meal, and we do all this business. And he does that thing where he scoops the fruit out and he feeds it to Dax. And
she's got a fruit, and he goes, "No, this is how you do it." And it basically removes the entire you think is the entire fruit and scrapes the rind. Well, why not just bite the rind in the first place?
Because he's being cute, isn't he? It's all this cute banter. It's going to win Dax's heart over. The B plot's not much better. So we've got Jeffrey Combs' character, and there's
Theon.
He's what? Sorry,
is it Theon?
Yeah, something like that. And there's a good joke where Quark says, "Oh, you've not been in the holodeck long," and he says, "Oh, I don't need long." And Quark's like, "Oh, not with my programs, you don't." That's That's quite funny. That's quite funny. And then the whole setup to it is he wants a holo program of Kira. Blatantly, he wants it to shag on the holodeck.
Yeah.
And Quark's obviously up for doing this, and
well, no, Quark's up for doing this because of how much latinum he puts on
this
the
guy's
desk.
loaded. Yeah, you get stuff like he's got his own holosuite at his home, so he must be really rich if he's got this. And so you do get some quite funny scenes where Quark does this scam where he's like, you're the millionth customer and you've won some drink and you've won free spins on the Davo table and you've won holodeck time. And Kira straight away is like, oh, I'll give it to Ensign so-and-so.
Yeah, it's his birthday.
Yeah, and so Quark's just like out of pocket already. So he's had to do all this stuff. And then you get a bit later on where he's there with his holo camera and he's trying to get, and he says, oh no, what I'm doing is I'm making a thing of ops. I'm doing this simulation.
Yeah, people want to see how it all works and they want to be in a fake Cardassian battle. And I could actually see that as being a popular program.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've got one of them VR things now, and the first game I downloaded was the Star Trek Bridge Simulator game. Yeah. So, yeah,
I could see that being quite popular, yeah. Let's go playing ops.
Yeah, definitely. So that is quite believable from Quark, but I like the way Odo, everything Quark says is just, yeah. And Quark's even like, well, you
he don't have to say anything, does it? And you know that Odo's calling him an outright liar what he's saying.
Yeah. No, I mean, there is some good fun stuff to be had in that. But
to be fair, with this episode, the B plot isn't great, but the B plot is actually more enjoyable than the main A plot.
Oh, yeah, it's a lot better. I mean, the A plot, there isn't a lot to say about it. There's just so much cringeworthy stuff, like, let's go climb a tree together, and he's got to impress her by climbing trees, and he says, I was just waiting for the right woman to fall out of the sky, and Dax says,
and she said, well, that's 1,000,000 to 1, and that had happened, and he goes, I only needed it to happen once.
Oh, yeah, I only needed oh, come on, you've only known each other for 5 minutes. Like, the thing is, you can believe that two people who meet each other can be attracted to each other. That's, happens every day.
Well, that's how one-night stands happen and all that.
Of course, but the way they try and play this is that they're absolutely madly in love with each other. And, we get to the point where Dax is willing to give up 60 years of her life to be with this guy.
Yeah.
And it's so, on one level, you're like, okay, well, a symbiont lives for a long, long, long time. So to the symbiont, that's not a huge amount of time. And she even says, like, I've been mortal for this long. It'll be interesting to exist as pure energy for a while. So you can kind of see it. But I just don't buy that she wants to do it for this fella. It's just not...
it isn't believable.
There's quite a good bit, though, where...
It's like we say, it's that problem with standalone episodes at this time. In 40 minutes, that you've got to tell a love story.
Yeah. I mean,
the love story isn't all that's happening. But here, the love story isn't all that's happening, because you've got the B plot and you've got the rest of the A plot going on.
You've got the thing about the planet, and
yeah.
There's quite a good bit where Dax is speaking to O'Brien and Sisko up on the Defiant, and they know what she's up to, and they sort of look at each other like, hey, up, which I quite enjoyed that bit. I think that's quite funny. And so they come up with a way of stabilising Meridian, so everybody's happy. But we can't do it until the next time it appears, which is in 60 years. So straight away, this guy's like, well, I'll leave the planet and I'll come and live with you. And there's quite a nice bit with Bashir and Dax where he's saying, oh, well, Quark won't let you in at Tongo as much now. if you've got a boyfriend. And Dax gets really offended. Like, no, I am. So, there's some not bad stuff in it. But eventually he decides he can't leave, so Dax is going to stay on Meridian. And there's a really nice scene between Dax and Sisko where it starts off with, I don't think anyone's ever asked for a 60-year leave of absence before. But then it does turn into quite a touching scene where they're talking to each other about their friendship and, by the time you come back, I'll be this old and all of that. And I think it's really well acted by the two of them. And I think it really does get across how good of friends they are. But all that does is showing the chemistry between Avery Brooks and Terry Farrell makes you realise that there's nothing between Dax and this fella. It's just... Anyway.
Yeah, they're playing as being friends, and they've got more chemistry than Dax and this fella that she wants to throw her life away for.
Yeah, it's just... And then obviously it doesn't work, because there's no way we're writing Dax out of the story, and there's no way we're keeping this bloke around, because he's just dull as dishwater. I mean, who's worse? Is he as bad as Bareil, or is he worse than Bareil? I think... Maybe Bareil.
I think he's worse than. I think he's worse than Bareil.
Because at least Bareil was tied into like all the storylines on Bayshore with Kai Wynn and stuff like that. So at least, Then obviously it doesn't work. They have to beam her up, and that's it. Really, she's just there, a bit gutted at the end of the episode. Well, it'll take me 60 years to get over it. It won't, Dax. Trust me.
It won't, Dax.
It's not gonna. Worf's gonna be here next season. Don't worry about it. Honestly,
and we've got what's the captain with the see-through head?
Captain Baudet with his see-through head.
Yeah, she's got Captain Baudet.
Exactly. Don't worry about it. You'll get over this one. And then back in the B plot, then. Quark's made his holodeck program, and you get this bit where Odo and Kira realise what's going on, and Kira, I've got a better idea. And I'm not quite sure I buy that from Kira. I think Kira had just gone and chinned Quark for this rather than...
Yeah, I could buy it as actually Odo, I've got a better idea, more than Kira, I could buy Odo doing this.
Yeah, because Odo's...
Because you're right, Kira would have just gone and chinned him.
Yeah, it's... You can see, like, oh, it'll be funnier if we do this. But Kira would just be like, no, I'm not having this. And, yeah, Kira doesn't strike me as the sort of person who would treat it lightly, you trying to use her image as a sex...
Yeah, so you've written a holographic sex program with me as the main character.
Yeah, I don't see...
I know what I can do that'll be funny. I'll put your head on my body.
Yeah, and that'll be an end to it. We won't say anything else about it after that. So, I mean, it's a funny payoff to the storyline, but I'm not sure I believe it with Kira. Because Kira's Kira. If I were Quark, I'd be very worried about my safety. I'm surprised Quark did it. It must have been just the amount of money being offered.
Well, you saw it, didn't you? Because he pulls out and it isn't strips. He's pulling out bars of gold pressed platinum. So he pulls out one, then he pulls a second out, and then he gives him something else. So that's in a box. It throws it. That's a serious amount he's giving over.
It must be enough money for Quark to retire and escape from the station if he needs to, if Kira finds out. But so he's lucky, really, that she must have been having a nice day because she sees the funny side of it. Which is more than can be said for the A plot anyway, but...
Well, it's like what you... Like, the other point of this is, she's changed the head on this hologram to Quark's head, yeah?
Yeah.
But it's her body that's been programmed as a sex slave.
Yeah.
So, Quark's still got that program. He can put any head on that, and it's her body.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, not thought of that. I mean, maybe I would guess she'll make him erase it, but
Yeah, paper bags.
yeah, yeah, true. Just puts like, yeah, some sort of mask on it or something. And
Yeah.
covers it up. Or he might find someone who really likes Quark's face and, likes Kira's body.
Surely if Kira, like, I imagine that Quark is a lot better at writing hologram programs than Kira will ever be.
You'd have thought
because
so, yeah.
So if she can change the head, surely he could change it back very easily.
I'm sure he can.
Or change it to someone else.
She must make him erase it. I mean,
yeah.
There's no way she doesn't. She's got to do. But anyway, I think that about does us for Meridian. At least we managed to do that one. So next time up then, we're going to look at Author, which will complete our Barclay Voyager arc. And kind of, it's more linked to the Dominion War than this episode. We're going to look at Defiant because it introduces...
It introduces the Obsidian Order.
The Obsidian Order, exactly. And we're going to need to know about the Obsidian Order before we get to the big...
And Defiant is a good fun episode.
It is a good fun episode. So they're what we're going to be covering next week. If you want to get in touch with us in the meantime, we're on Twitter at ReTrekPod. You can email us retrekpod@gmail.com, or you can come and join us on the Facebook group. Just search for ReTrek. And thanks for trekking with us this time. We'll see you next time on the ReTrek.
Thank you. Bye-bye.